everyone, Dr. Nant here. Today I want to do a video on the topic of collagen. So a lot of you are probably familiar with collagen. You may have heard about it as a supplement that can benefit skin health, maybe gut health as well. But you might be wondering, what's the best way to use this? How does this actually work in our bodies? And what are some situations when we shouldn't use it? Now, we're going to cover all of that in this video. I want to start by talking a little bit about how collagen actually works in our bodies, what function it plays, how it actually functions as a signaling molecule that can have both good and bad effects sometimes in the body. And we'll of course talk about what type of collagens to use depending on your goal. We'll also talk about dosing as well as some situations in which it may not be a good idea. So let's start with the first question of what is collagen and what function does it play in our body. So to start with that, what I first want to talk about is the extracellular matrix. The extracellular matrix is a substance that surrounds our cells and holds them together. So we have cells making up every part of our body, but we have an extracellular matrix that surrounds these cells. Now, I think the best way to think about how the extracellular matrix is made up is to make an analogy to a building or a house. So if you imagine the framing and the 2x4s being one part and the insulation in between all of that being another, we can think about a similar analogy when it comes to the ECM or extracellular matrix. So the fibrous proteins make up one part of the ECM, and an example of a fibrous protein is collagen. So that's kind of analogous to the framing and the 2x4s in a house. The ground substance is a little bit like the insulation, and a good example of ground substance is hyaluronic acid, which is another compound that you guys have probably heard of that we might cover in a future video. But let's stay focused on collagen for the moment. So we know that collagen makes up the extracellular matrix. It serves this kind of structuring role, and obviously that's going to be really important when we think about all the different functions that it plays out. So let's actually think a little bit about how collagen functions as a molecule, because that's actually how we're taking it in. When we take a collagen peptides or collagen hydrolysate, I'll talk a little bit more later about what those are and how they're actually the same thing. But in any case, you're taking in this collagen, and then that collagen is having different effects in the body. I think this is an important thing to realize, that collagen does not just enter your body and just assemble itself into a part of your skin or your connective tissue like a Lego block. This is actually a signaling molecule that causes things to happen. And so for that, what I want to direct you to is this diagram. And see that collagen actually has an effect on some different signaling molecules. The first are the surface proteins known as integrins. These are proteins that often bind to the extracellular matrix in our tissues. And when we have collagen, it can actually attach to these integrins, which then activates different signaling pathways. And I think the one that's most relevant here is called the PI3 kinase or an AKT pathway. And this pathway is all about proliferation, which is generally a good thing when you're talking about renewing the connective tissue around your skin or around a high turnover area like the gut, where cells are getting destroyed and turning over a lot. But there are some circumstances where getting that proliferative effect may not be desirable. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. The other really interesting mechanism that collagen activates is that it actually activates a mechanism of what I'll call immune tolerance. So around the gut, so when we have collagen that we take in, it gets absorbed by the gut, and then there are T cells that live in and around the gut. And these T cells are basically monitoring the different things that are coming through, and they will pick up and detect this collagen. And by doing so, they become more tolerant of the collagen. And so when the T cells then circulate around the body, they then convince, so to speak, the other immune cells to be more tolerant of collagen. And so this is actually a great way to reduce inflammation that can be associated with certain skin conditions, and also just generally reduce inflammation around the skin in general. And so what happens is this T cell goes out to the skin, and it can talk to the macrophage, which is another immune cell, and change it to a different state of polarization, going from an M1 to an M2 state. The M2 state is the desirable for the macrophage when it comes to reducing inflammation. What happens when it enters that state is that it then releases more extracellular matrix. So it does so via cytokine known as IL-10, and that causes it to release more collagen. There are fibroblasts that actually do that, but that's a little bit of a detail. But you basically get more collagen synthesis from this collagen molecule that actually causes immune tolerance, then you also get diminished inflammation as well in and around the skin. And so if we think about the health of the skin, developing this tolerance and reducing inflammation and stimulating collagen synthesis are all the things we want to be doing. So this is an important pathway that I think really relates how collagen is having this positive effect. Now there's another pathway that collagen is activating known as a layer 1 signaling pathway, and this is another kind of general anti-inflammatory pathway. So far we're seeing that collagen in general is having a lot of positive effects at controlling inflammation in different parts of the body, certainly the skin. Now it also does have an effect on activating platelet aggregation. It does so via a receptor known as glycoprotein 6, and so this can promote platelet aggregation, and this we need platelet aggregation to facilitate wound healing. It's an important function, but in certain states this may not be desirable, and this is definitely one of the situations in which we may not want to be using collagen. And again, I'll talk more about that in a moment. But as you can see here, collagen activates a whole host of different signaling pathways. This is really just a subset. There are probably about a dozen or 24 additional pathways that it's involved with, but these are some of the most important when it comes to understanding what this is actually doing. So now let's talk about collagen as a supplement. So in general, the collagen that you buy is what's known as collagen hydrolysate. So this is not fully assembled collagen. If you think about those 2x4s, when you take a supplement, you're not taking a fully assembled collagen molecule, you're taking little bits and pieces of it, which are called collagen hydrolysate. This is the same thing as collagen peptides. You may see that term also thrown around. That's actually the same thing. Now, in terms of what's commercially available, there are generally two types of collagen that you see. One is called marine collagen. This is derived from fish. And then there is bovine collagen, which is derived from cows. Now, coming back up here, type 1 collagen is really important for the skin and the bone. It's the type of collagen we tend to see in those organs. Bovine has a little bit of a mix of type 1 and 3, and it's the type 3 collagen that actually is important for organs, like the gut and that sort of thing. In general, my perspective is that it's the type 1 collagen that is best if you're really doing this for skin health. The type 3 collagen is beneficial if you're kind of doing it for general health, especially gut health. The bovine might be better for kind of general purposes. Now, the best human data we have on the impact of collagen on human health really has to do with the skin and the bone. And this is no surprise because this is, these are two of the major effects of collagen type 1. So those are the most well-studied benefits of collagen. There are some folks who believe this also benefits gut health, but that is a little bit less well-established, but you can imagine mechanistically how that might play out. Now, in general, collagen supplementation is great, and it's something that I like to recommend to most people, but there are some situations in which you may want to use some caution. One of these is cancer, and I think when you think about the proliferative effect that collagen can have via the integrins and the PI3 kinase pathway, you can imagine why that may not be desirable, because not only may we be stimulating some cells to proliferate, but we're also changing the extracellular matrix in a way that may actually make it easier for these cancer cells to spread. So that's one circumstance in which I would use it with caution. The other set of circumstances actually relates to situations when we are concerned about blood clotting. So if you have a genetic condition that causes you to have an increased risk of blood clotting, that would be one where I might use some caution here. And even if you have a significant cardiovascular disease risk, that's a situation which platelet aggregation is a concern, and that might be another situation you might want to use some caution around collagen. Again, none of this has been proven out, but just again, when you think about the mechanisms, this can give you some guidance in terms of how to use this with caution. But again, in general, I think collagen's great. I think I like to include it as part of a regimen for most people. It does a lot of things for the body. It reduces inflammation. It can help promote better skin and bone health. We know that from human studies, and I think it's a great molecule. Now, my preferred dose, again, this is based on research studies, is anywhere from 1 to 1.5 grams per day. That's the dose that typically is studied in most of the papers, but getting anywhere around that is likely going to give you some benefit. So anyway, those are some of my thoughts about collagen. I hope you found this useful. Again, if you find this content useful, please leave me a like, share, and subscribe. Thanks very much.